gotta ask yourself whether reality is a dream. Are you a dream or reality? We're all a part of the answer to the meaning of it all. Come in and join us for the moment we call now. Rise up, join in, raise the whole vibration.
Hey, welcome. I had it playing in the background. That was really weird. I love my new theme song. I don't know about you, but that it gets me pumped up. I feel like it's a culmination of doing this for a while, and it really captures the essence, because that's what I want to do. I want to rise up. I want you to join in and raise the vibration. And what's up, Tim? What's up, Ninja Kitty? I see you guys out there struggling with the production end of this today, clicking the wrong buttons. So welcome to the live stream of consciousness. It's Thursday night. It's February 20th. You know the saying, we all agreed to call it that so we all would know where to be and when. And here we are. I'm broadcasting to you live from my bedroom, my bedroom studio. And you have either been invited here, or you've been here before, or the one that's most exciting to me, you accidentally stumbled across this and you're watching, trying to figure out exactly what it is. That means you're meant to see this. You're meant to be here in this moment. So I appreciate you coming. If you are watching live, you know the routine, right? Just to tickle the algorithm and let the algorithm know that I'm here and that there's something interesting going on. Just type in #live. That engages the algorithm. Maybe click like on YouTube if you're on YouTube, or share. It's really easy to do, and it just helps me to grow the show and the mission. So thank you. I wrote a bunch of stuff here. I'm trying to evolve the show a little bit, right? So I wrote a bunch of stuff here. It's super exciting to me, what I'm doing here. Oh, I'm almost at 500 subscriptions, 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is awesome. So if you're new here, please subscribe. That'll help me. I think I'm like 3 or 4 away, which is cool. A milestone. I didn't even know I had that milestone. And then when I looked, I was like, oh, I'm almost at 500. So what I want to do different today is open up the space, right? I have this other show called Holding Space, you guys know, that I've been doing, and it's just made me more aware of this moment, right? That I've invited you to, that we're all here at. And I just want to open up the space. And coincidentally, Janice, the quiet healer, for Valentine's Day, got me this amazing bowl. I am so super excited about it. And I just want to open up the space by wringing out the bowl, taking a nice deep breath, feeling that resonation. I was doing this at the place, and it got really loud. The vibration kept raising and raising and raising, and somebody walked in from the other room and said, my eyes just started tearing. I love these Tibetan sound bowls. If you haven't experienced them, when they're played in the room that you're in, you can feel the sound coming from inside of you. It's like literally amazing, and a part of what I talk about here all the time, about energy and vibration. And tonight's going to be no different. That's what the conversation is going to be all about. My guest is a 5-star psychic medium. I'm super excited. I don't remember. I got to ask her about this, but I'm trying to remember how we connected. But Leah Claire I'm going to read her introduction on her website because I feel like it sounds more official. Leah Claire is an exceptionally talented and highly sought after psychic medium, renowned not for only her remarkable abilities, but also for her deep commitment as a healer, which is what I always find really authentic about healers and psychics, that are really connected and really like they're doing it because they're being guided to. So she's nestled in the picturesque Gold Coast region of Long Island, New York, which is where I am. Leah has touched the lives of countless individuals, guiding them through the profound experiences of connecting with loved ones who have crossed over. That's why she's a psychic medium. Finding clarity on their true life purposes and embarking on a journey of emotional and physical healing. So I love that, because that's really the mission of this show, right? Is to really help people understand that there are definitely different ways to connect to themselves and to find themselves if they haven't. And if they have, just to help express that through the show. So there you have it. My guest for tonight is Leah Claire, and I'm going to welcome with open arms to the live stream of consciousness. Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here. I should tell you though, and you're not the only one, so please don't feel bad.
Okay.
My name is pronounced Leia.
Leah. Oh my
Yes,
goodness. I don't think we
but
ever
don't worry.
said it out
Everybody calls it
loud.
Leah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so
Leah
much.
Claire.
Yes.
I like it to be proper. My name's easy. It's Michael, but I love it when somebody asks me, do you prefer Mike or Michael? Because I prefer Michael, and I don't really care. I mean, if you want to call me Mike, I'm going to answer. I know who you're talking to, so I get what you're saying. But Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, and Tim,
And
and
thank you
Tim.
for that amazing introduction. That was really special. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Tim is saying welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
That,
Thank you.
that tickled my conscious bone, Tim. Very funny. Nice play on words. Um, so,
And I love that you get it. Like, I love that you read my page and you got it.
mm.
That's exactly what it's all about.
Well, I think it's difficult these days, even though it's exciting these days. We were just talking about how spirituality in general is kind of being much more accepted. Psychic mediums being a little bit kind of a level up, right? For people to accept the idea that you can actually connect with people that have passed on to another non-physical realm. There are a lot of people who kind of struggle with that, and it's great that it's being more and more widely accepted, that people are starting to understand that there's more to existence than just this 3D part of it. You know what I mean? And that's what's prompted me to have these conversations, and especially the kinds of guests that I have on who have a little bit more connection to those ideas. So before I jump ahead, because that's kind of what comes next, I always ask my guests my favorite question, because the answers are always so different but connected to each other. And that is, what are we even talking about when we say consciousness? What is consciousness?
So I think that, you I want to kind of backtrack a little bit too, because you're talking about it's all energy.
Hmm.
It's all energy, and we are all connected.
Hmm.
Okay. And I think that we just, in these vessels that we have, our physical bodies, we're just limited in how we can interpret the world around us for the most part.
Hmm. Hmm.
On for the normal person, I don't think there
Hmm.
is such
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
thing, but
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the normal person,
sure.
and we all have different ways of interpreting that energy. Okay. And I'm sure so many of your guests have their own unique way of interacting with it, sensing it,
Hmm.
putting out their own energy,
Hmm.
vibing with it.
Hmm.
And I do the same thing. I just, in my vessel that I am incarnated into,
Yeah.
I can work with it and interact with it and play with it.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't understand really what is a psychic medium and
Hmm.
what's the difference between a psychic and a medium,
Hmm.
because it's basically so psychics will interpret, is a good word, the
Hmm.
world around them
Hmm.
from messages from their higher self,
Hmm.
and their guides and angels and other kinds of energy that we could
Yeah.
go into.
Right.
And
Tarot
it's all
cards.
energy. It's all
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yes, using tarot cards. So, like tarot cards for me, and I don't know if you could see, I have a few here back here. I use tarot cards, but it's like a net.
Mhm.
that I could look at a cereal box, honestly, and
Mhm,
start
mhm,
to get
mhm.
messages in,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
then my guides and angels will start having me just receive information just looking at something, but it doesn't really matter what it is, just that tarot cards are interesting.
Sure,
It
sure,
helps.
sure.
It's like
Well,
I
well,
call it like
because
a net.
yeah, because you're actually the vessel,
Yes,
not the tarot card, not the
exactly.
tea leaves, not the back of the cereal box, right?
Right.
You're the one who's, getting that energetic message from whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's an energy connection is a good word,
Mhm,
between me and whoever I'm reading, as
mhm,
well as their guides who are working with my guides.
mhm,
And then spirit communication is like one little section of that. So all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics
mhm.
are mediums. So
Yeah,
not all psychics can interact with that specific vibration
right,
of the energy of soul for other people.
right. Got it.
But mediums all can interact with
Mhm.
all of that other energy. Does that
Got it.
make sense?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. And just so
Okay.
you know, you're talking to an audience of people who kind of are prepared for that. They get
Okay,
that.
cool.
Yeah, they're receiving that.
Almost
I
500 people of them.
yeah.
Congratulations, by the way. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny because I never started this show with an intention of like that, right? My intention was just really connecting. I grew up, it's funny. I grew up kind of not antisocial, but I wasn't fond of people in general. And then, as I got older and a little bit more spiritual, I realized that that was only a reflection of myself and only a decision that I made, and a choice of a perspective that I wanted to take. And I realized that looking for the good in other people and kind of just opening up my heart and was, it felt better. You know what I mean? It was just a better place to be. And here we are now, on a live broadcast, just professing the message of how we're all connected, and it's all based in love. Although we didn't get to that part yet, but we will. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I think that so many people, it's so life in and of itself, when we are faced with difficult things, it is a catalyst for us to open,
Mhm,
because we're seeking how to adapt to our environment. And
mhm,
that's why so many people who are on the spiritual path have had difficult lives. It's like something that
mhm,
they often have in common. It's one of the things that I'm actually going to be talking about at the Soul Conference, the Soul Care Conference, is how to make lemonade from lemons.
mhm,
You know, how the most difficult of life's circumstances can help for us and be a catalyst for
mhm.
true spiritual growth. And that's what life is all about. It's about
Yeah.
that compression and turning from this piece of carbon that's put under pressure and
Turns
bursting
into a
forth into
diamond.
the diamond with all
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
facets that we are,
yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
amazing. Great metaphor. I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's true, and I love that aspect of the people that I meet in the community that have, like I meet them at where they're at now, and they're like these incredibly loving people and confident and like just all of these amazing traits that you would want to see in a human being. And then you find out like they used to go around and beat up people, and like they just come from these
Some of them,
horrible,
yeah.
yeah, something like, or they used to get beat up, you know what I mean? They got a lot of abuse. There's just like these crazy traumatic stories, like you said, that I think kind of help people understand the existence and the purpose of living, and how experiences for you, right? Not, it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. It shapes who you are. And I guess that, when you've gone through that much trauma, you can show that much more love, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that. I love that aspect to
I
it.
love that
Yeah,
too. I mean, I do think that I think that it's hard for some people, and I'm sure every one of us knows somebody like this, but I think it's hard for some people to make that conversion when
hmm
they've never experienced love.
hmm
How
hmm
can you turn to love if you don't even know what it is?
Right, right,
You
absolutely.
know?
And that's something that I talk about here also, right? There's for me, there's a couple like basic ingredients, right? If you're putting together a recipe for a life that is at least enjoyable and sustainable, right? Gratitude is one of those ingredients, but self-love is like the one of the main ingredients, because just like you're saying, how can you experience love with anybody else or anything else, the world? How can you experience love with the world until you love yourself? And then when you do, it becomes so evident, like, oh my god, now I can experience love. And I think that's what even inspires you to start to choose to experience love, right? You start to be aware of, wait a second, I can choose what I want to experience, right? Or how I want to experience this. um and
Yeah, absolutely.
and it's interesting because I'm going to admit that I spend part of the day kind of getting sucked into the energy field of what's going on in the world, right? Meaning like the political
Yeah.
situations and the let's not even call it that. Let's just call it the divisiveness that's kind of been um, bestowed upon humanity, right? Humanity, and it's not just it's more prominent in America, or that's my experience. In the United States, it's like hella nuts, right? But I think that's global. I think that there's a lot of energy going on. We were talking about that before the show too, over the past couple of years, but more specifically now, it's like seems like more focused on the moment of now, how crazy the energy is and how it affects everybody. So I get sucked into it during the day, but I think part of that, right, is to remind me of how I can not be a part of it, right? Like by choice. It's to remind me, hey, you're choosing this, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, and which is cool because I think I'm able to go in and take it with a little bit more of a grain of salt. Like, okay, I'm not really choosing this. I'm just kind of curious as to see who's woken up and who hasn't yet. you know uh and again, that's said with the most love, not judgment, right? Which I think is another interesting thing happening in the spiritual community is kind of like this mm, pseudo spirituality, right? Or like kind of not, I don't want to say it that way. Again, I don't want to cast judgment, but just kind of like I think there are people who feel like they're spiritual, but they're still
Oh
subscribing
yeah.
heavily to those energies. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, the ultimate spiritual energy is we are all one. Like there is no they in we. you
Yeah.
know
I
you know
completely understand what you mean. And I think that it's we can't just get from here to here in one swoop.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
think that it takes levels, and, not everybody accelerates to a higher vibration at the same rate.
right.
But I think that what's interesting is that with everything that's going on globally, politically, socially, economically,
Mhm,
uh, in so many different ways, you have this explosion of people awakening and increasing their vibration.
mhm,
And it's a result from all of the negative energy.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
think that's the most beautiful thing, because that's
Absolutely.
what we're supposed to do. Like the
Yeah,
carbon with the
yeah,
diamond, like you can no longer be in that lower vibrational state. And we
yeah.
have to
Mhm,
blow out of that.
mhm.
And I'm so grateful that there are so many wonderful people that are that higher vibration. And I think that, again, like, at least people are starting to climb, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
hope that
No,
they get to
listen,
that point,
and
but
and again, it's the nature of being spiritual to try to be optimistic about it all, right? And just be like, wait, this is going to happen. But I do think for me anyway, right, it's the understanding that I can't change what anybody else is doing. I can only change what I'm doing. So that's why I
Exactly.
try to be loving and be understanding, and and do this kind of thing. I was just talking to a friend today about, the live stream of consciousness and holding space is usually like kind of a conversation with a metaphysical modality or some sort of level to it. But I also did a show called Strange and Wonderful, where I was talking to people who didn't live the most traditional kind of lifestyles. Like I spoke to the Lizard Man, who is this guy he's in Ripley's Believe It or Not. He's the most covered of tattoos. He's like all scaled with scales, and he's got like body modification. And it was one of the most amazing conversations I've ever had. You know what I mean? Just like understanding these different perspectives that people are riding through their existence, right? Which is a collective, right? So it's like, I think that's also a part of the nature of this show, is that I'm kind of curious as to like, hey, it's a puzzle piece party. Everybody bring their puzzle piece to the party, and we'll
Oh, I
show each
like
other,
that.
what we got. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
we'll
I love
figure out
that.
figure out this damn puzzle.
That's really cool. I like that
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah. So anyway, we got way off track because there's a second question that's going to lead me into finding out more about you and how you got to be a psychic, your psychic experiences, what led you that way. And that is, you've already kind of mentioned that there's more to this world than just the 3D experience. Is there a memory that you have, or a specific moment, a story that like you realized that and suddenly everything was different? Or was it a slow thing? Was it always like that for you?
I mean, I think it depends on what kind of energy you're talking about, because I remember interacting with spirit when I was only 3 years old. So if we're talking about that interaction of energy, that's different. But when you're talking about the 5D, I think the most pivotal moment is me actually bending a spoon with my mind.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Do you want to see it?
You can do it live on my show?
I don't know if I could do it live on your
Oh, of
show. I mean,
course I
like
want
that's
to
saying
see
that,
it.
like serious meditation, but I actually like have the spoons. You want to
That
see?
would
Like I have
that
them.
would be
I was not expecting to
phenomenal.
talk about this, but I do have. Where
That
are
would be,
they?
oh my goodness,
I have a few of
Leah.
them. So, and I
No,
actually have a friend in he's in Sweden. He's very much a psychic medium as well. And he actually can make his body magnetic and attach the spoons to his body.
wow.
So he did this. This is his spoon. He actually gave
Oh
this to
my
me. He's a good friend of
God,
mine.
that's so
He
cool.
did that.
Wow.
But for
How,
me, and again, like I'm little, I know you can't see how little I am on the screen, but I'm like 5'1.5".
oh
Okay, I'm
wow.
5'2". I round
Nice.
up. And I'm little, I'm petite, right? So for me, bending a spoon is not it's
Oh
not
my goodness.
easy. So I've
Wow.
done like, and I
Just
can't like,
telekinetically, like with just like through thought.
yes, like weakening the metal with my mind and then easily just bending it, which I can't do now because like I'm
Right,
trying
right, right.
to unbend it and I can't
Oh
unbend it.
wow.
So
This
yeah,
listen, if you want to demonstrate this, Leia,
I don't know if I could do it on, I could tell you how to do it, but I don't know if I
okay.
could do it because I get like into a deep thing with that. I don't know if I'm
I'm
nervous
listening.
talking in front of everybody. I don't know if I can
I'm
do it,
okay. No, no, listen, I'm
but
fine with
I'll
that,
tell you
but
how.
it's really up to you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess my first question was going to be, was this obviously this was some sort of intended like lesson, and did you have somebody instruct you how to do this, or you just
Yes.
okay? So tell us about this experience,
So I don't know if
and
you've
tell
ever
us
heard
how to
of
do it.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called Uri Geller.
I was, you know what? We both know there are no coincidences, right? But I watch a lot of very cool podcasts, right? And get a lot of really interesting information, and specifically the whole idea of Uri Geller. And there was another name mentioned, I forget offhand. Uri Geller I had heard of as a child, and I knew who he was, but it just, I mean, I haven't heard that name in a long time, and I just literally like either heard it today or yesterday. It was like in my
There are no
in my
mistakes.
in my vortex very, very recently. So yes, continue. So yes, I do know, I have heard of Uri Geller. Actually, for anybody in the audience who may not have, why don't you give us a little, tell us, give us the spiel.
Okay, so he is a famous. Hi, Katie. He is a famous psychic.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm,
I don't know if he's a medium. I'm not sure. But he's a famous psychic around 60s, 70s, 80s,
mhm,
maybe the 90s.
mhm.
He's been like on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he's just like the psychic to the celebrities, right? One of
Also
his, yeah,
involved with, also involved with CIA experience,
yes,
right? This
which
is
I also can do remote viewing,
wow.
which is cool. We could talk about that too.
That's super cool.
It's super cool. It's just really cool. Like I know I'm a psychic medium, but it's just energy. It's just all
All
energy.
part of the same thing. Absolutely, a million
Yeah,
percent.
psychic medium is like one little title of everything else that I do. And I'm like a Reiki healer and
I
all this other
love
stuff.
that. I love, see, and that's really, that's where I come from, right? Is that energy is the bottom line, right? And these are all just
Yes.
different aspects of interacting with energy, and receiving and processing it and expressing it.
Yes.
It's all different, just different aspects. I talk very often about how, I feel like aliens and angels and all of these things that are entities that are non-human are aspects of the same thing. They're just
Yes.
different interpretations, different.
Exactly. Angel energy is like super high vibing energy. It's beautiful.
Mm,
It's like that, like how you were describing the sound bowl, you feel it inside of
mm,
you. Angels
mm,
are like that. You just
mhm,
feel
mhm,
that like
mhm, mhm.
inside of you. It's very cool.
Awesome.
Um, yeah. I
So
was just thinking,
back to
yeah, go
Uri
ahead.
Geller. Sorry, I knocked
Yes,
you off track.
I know. I
Back.
digress. So, so anyway, so Uri Geller is known also for bending metal, and he taught me how to do it. And it's basically understanding that we are all made of the same stuff,
Mhm,
that we are all energy, if you
mhm,
really want to simplify it,
mhm,
but trying to match, again, it's all about matching the energy.
mhm,
Okay. So
mhm,
when I'm interacting with spirit, I'm matching that energy. When I'm
mhm, mhm.
interacting with angels, I'm not matching their energy. They're coming down and I'm coming up, and then that's
Right.
how we interact.
Tuning, you could say like tuning a radio. You're tuning
It's
into
like
that.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
analogy.
yeah,
And it's similar to bending the metal
cool.
itself. And I did not want to, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your show. Can I
Yes,
curse on the
yeah.
show?
This
Okay.
is
I'm like with your rock music and, badass stuff going on, but I
nice.
I didn't want to do a half-assed thing. Like I got thick metal. Like this is not
That's
your
awesome.
tin
Amazing.
spoon, you know?
Yeah.
So, but if you think about, so what I do is when I am in meditation, it's kind of like the Matrix, that scene where there is no spoon, you
That's
know?
it's exactly what's going through my mind. That whole scene itself.
I mean, I don't think that I could actually like bend the metal and make the spoon do that weird funky thing.
Right.
But but
Be the spoon.
be the spoon. The spoon is made of atoms, molecules, atoms, quarks,
Mhm,
neutrons, electrons, protons.
mhm,
So are we.
mhm,
So when you think about your hand holding the spoon and the difference between the energy that keeps you separate, and you're focusing on that specific energy signature,
mhm,
which is what it's like when I'm talking to spirit. Like each
mhm, mhm.
personality has its own energy signature. You can make the spoon, oh, I don't know the right words to use because there's not really words to use, but you can
Let it
make the
process.
spoon bend at your will.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, it sounds like so simple based on what I'm thinking of, but you can make it flexible. You can make it bend to your will, and then simply you can bend it with your hands.
Mhm, mhm,
And it's not hard. Like right now, I'm not in that mind
mhm.
space, and I cannot, like, I don't know if you could see my
Yeah,
white, like,
sure.
I am trying to bend this back, and I can't. Like, my hands hurt because I was
Yeah,
trying to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I
Absolutely.
can't, I can't bend this back. Not with my 3D energy
Right.
in meditation. And I'm not saying it's fast. I'm sure like Uri Geller, he sits there and he touches it and I don't know what he does.
Right,
It's
right, right.
similar, but he has his
Sure,
own way of doing it. But
sure.
that's my way of doing it. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
know how to feel that molecular energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And I
It's so cool. Because then you're like,
yeah, yeah.
holy shit, I just did that. And then it's like, oh my God. I mean, I even feel that way when I interact with clients and spirits and like I had an interaction with Jesus himself like in Israel. I mean, it was really I'm I love what I do. I feel
Yeah,
so blessed
yeah.
to uh, get it, to be awakened.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I know it all either.
Sure, sure,
The more
sure.
you know, the less you feel like you know.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Um, and there's so much more to learn, but
Yeah.
it's like once you realize you get awakened, like, and you realize how much there is that we
Yeah,
can
well,
access and
right,
tap into,
right.
it's just so cool.
Well, that again, that's why I think I know you love talking about this stuff, and I love talking about this stuff because, up until a certain point, your beliefs were limited to this physical existence, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's like, and without talking like conspiracy theory and everything, like it should be pretty obvious that these certain systems that are in place are, whether it's intentional or not, they are limiting knowledge and access to certain things that are kind of, um I don't want to say God given. I do want to say God given, but I want to say like, natural birthright, or something. I don't know.
I
Just
like
like,
that.
just our attachment to our own essence, right? Is kind of
Ego.
right. It's not presented to us. It's kind of, you know, um stripped. Is not, again, I don't want to use these words, I'm usually pretty careful about what
Eloquent.
I say, right? Yeah, I want to
Oh,
be careful. Well, I just want to be careful about what I say because,
you don't want to
you
offend.
talk about, and it's not about offending. It's about energy. It's about my belief in how important words are and thoughts and energy is. So
Mm.
as I'm talking and as I'm saying things, like, a lot of times if I'm telling something, oh yeah, I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that, I'm like, ooh, I just told the universe that. Like I just made it so, by saying it. And so it's difficult sometimes for me to talk because I'm like, oh wait, words are coming to the front and they're being like halted right here, like don't say that, don't say that. Um so
But I
yeah,
love that living with intention,
yeah,
speaking with intention.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's not only about manifesting positivity or negativity, but it's interpersonal relationships and
Mhm.
that caring for other people and
Sure.
being careful of your words. I think
Oh,
that
and
that's
understanding
beautiful.
accountability, right? Accountability,
Yes.
right? In interpersonal relationships and in the collective, you know what I mean? In the world, right? Your purpose out in the world. I think that's how you start to find it, right? Like, I've been talking about Bashar over the last bunch of weeks on the show, thinking that everybody knows who he is and finding out not everybody knows who he is. But, it's not about the way he delivers the message as a trans channel. it's about the message, right? And the message that he has is so hard hitting when you get it. It's like you're just like, duh, you know. And I think that's again part of the whole spiritual community and the journey is the idea of like, you know, all of this stuff, you just need to remember it. Right, because you're the essence of everything, you know, as you're just manifested into this little human physical little speck, you know.
I do,
And I,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think that it's that pivot from being lost in yourself, in your 3D ego, and then all of a sudden remembering, wait a minute, I'm not a human having that soul experience. I'm a
Mhm.
soul having that human experience.
Right,
And realizing that there is so much more than what so many people and organizations want for us to
totally.
be
Totally. So
understanding of.
yeah. So as you're saying this, I'm thinking about the idea of the joke I always make about how we've agreed to call this February 20th and this certain time, right? And that is the idea of we need to have some sort of common, you know, language in order to function together on a physical plane, right? I mean, that's like a necessity, and um, I think it's the same thing. And I'm just again, I'm kind of speaking out loud as I'm processing this. It's the same thing with ego, meaning that ego is like, okay, let me back up a little bit. So, like, in my spiritual beliefs,
Mhm.
time and space aren't really, you know, the essentials, right? So that's why I make the joke about we've agreed to call this February 20th and like put these labels on it, right? So that we can all function together. And I think the ego is also a good example of that, meaning that it's not about get rid of your ego. The ego is an important aspect of you to allow us to function together. But it's a matter of, are you letting the ego drive, you know, or are you letting the heart drive? Are you putting the ego into perspective? Okay, you know, I was born, I was told, I was given my name, Michael, right? I didn't choose that. I was given that. And then I was raised to become that. And that's like your ego, right? That's like, oh, I'm Michael, blah 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 blah. But you know, just I think understanding like, okay, I'm Michael and I have this specific description because I exist as this essence, right? In a bunch of essences, and I need to function, you know. So I think I'm probably getting way off track, but do you get
No,
what I'm
I
saying?
totally would get what you're
Yeah,
saying. And
yeah,
I like it. Okay, so I have so many things to say and what you just to respond to what you just
yeah,
said.
yeah.
So
Please.
number one, I love the I'm looking at like your screen with like the space behind it with the little molecules moving around behind us with
Uh huh.
it
Uh
looks
huh.
like the galaxy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when you think about time and space, you're we're looking at the certain amount of rotations of a rock
Hmm.
around a certain number of rotations around a star,
Hmm.
around other planetary influences in this very tiny little speck of the universe. I mean,
Hmm.
it's so infinitesimally small. I mean, each one of us are even smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just one aspect of this grand scheme of things that we can't really understand.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what I do, yes, I'm a psychic medium. I also am a past life regressionist.
Oh,
I work with past lives and reincarnation, and I guide
nice.
people to their past lives
Hmm.
to understand how their past lives have influenced their current life, how to use it as like a jumping board, like shoots and ladders. How you can, I always say this in my
Hmm.
seminars, like you can skip, you can climb the ladder and skip the
Hmm.
board, you know? You
Hmm.
can do that with a past life regression to understand why it is you're here and what your purpose is and what you need to do, what your lessons are, so
Hmm.
that you can reflect back and also make course corrections on how to correct your life going forward.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
that you can live happier, so that you don't have to um, go around in life repeating the same loops and patterns and things like that. So when
Understanding the connection to the energy of whatever it
exactly.
is. Right, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, we are a soul and we are connected to each other, and we have soul contracts, and we have karmic relationships, and soulmates, and twin flames, and all of this. Well, one twin flame, in all of this grand scheme of things.
Mhm, mhm,
And all of that, the entire, this just blows my mind because it's so simple. The entire plan of existence is either the pursuit of love or the lack of love.
mhm,
Everything,
mhm,
everything around that
mhm,
is about love,
mhm,
either having it or needing it
mhm.
or the lack of it.
I'm gonna agree with you. I think we're on the same page there, and I think, and it's interesting, right? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that it's not it's simple, yes, but it's also abstract. And I think that, when, like, so I made a post on Facebook and I said it's all love, everything is love, and then somebody like posted some evil imagery or something, and I'm like, it's all about love, and that includes lack of love, right? That includes lack of love, and so, I get it, and
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 it
I think,
sounds so simple, but it's so complex. It's
right.
so the soul is a complex, energetic being that protects itself instead of uh, protects itself and is vulnerable to it until it can. So let me try to use better words here. I'm going to try to follow your lead and be more intentional with my words. So when we are kids and we carried over things from past lives, and we're in a position where we are relying on people to take care of us,
Mhm,
and to be taken care of, whether it be by teachers at school or parents at home
mhm,
or siblings or family members,
mhm, mhm,
etc. And we are constantly not in control and at the whim of everyone around us. And we're just trying to get by, and something happens to hurt us. And it's inevitable. Nobody gets through life unharmed. Everybody has very difficult things. And it's
mhm.
just something on the side note, but don't think it's not going to be healthy to ever think that somebody else has it easy. They just have their own shit
Right.
that they have to deal with.
That's right.
Nobody gets off easy.
That's right. And if it seems easy to you, it's probably super difficult for them. You know what I
Yes, you
mean?
just don't
It's
understand what
all
they're going
relative,
through.
right? It's all relative.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is we go through life and we're trying to just survive and get by. Um, and the people around us might hurt us. So it's like breaking a bone and not knowing how to set it because you're a kid
Hmm,
and
hmm,
it heals funny,
hmm,
but you manage and your arm is crooked for the rest of your life
hmm,
until you become an adult where you say, you know what? This is getting in my way. This is
hmm.
getting in my way. I can't get through life anymore with my arm in this position, with this trauma that I've protected myself around.
Right.
I'm bumping into
That
things. I'm
you that
having
you
problems
learned
with
how to function. You learned
relationships.
how to function with.
You've learned how to
Yeah, yeah.
function, but it's not getting you to the place of happiness and peace and
Hmm,
harmony that you really need to be in. And
hmm,
it's getting in your way instead. And you're saying, you know what? I need to go back and understand, why did this happen? And what happens is we get to that point as an adult where we can no longer have to rely on other people to do that for us.
hmm,
And we have to go back and parent ourselves, to love ourselves of that version of ourselves for
hmm,
whatever version we were at that age. We have to
hmm,
go back and love that part of ourselves or figure out who we are,
hmm.
because we never gave ourselves the opportunity, or we always had to fit somebody else's ideal of
Right.
what we needed to be
Right.
to survive. And
Right.
then all of a sudden you start figuring out, what do I like, what do I not like, what's okay with me, what's my language, what kind of people do I want to surround myself with, what do I want to do for a career, maybe what I've been doing is something I hate or I'm miserable in.
Right. Right.
And we're not supposed to be comfortable in situations that are not healthy for us. That's
Mhm.
why our guides and angels create these situations so that we're not comfortable. And
Right.
then we go and we have these epiphanies and go back and then start to really uncover those moments where we healed wrong, where
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
protected ourselves instead
Right.
of healed
Right.
ourselves. And then we can go back and say, you know what, this was not your fault. These other people were imperfect. They had their
Right.
own
Right.
constraints. You
Right.
know, maybe they didn't do it out of maliciousness. Maybe they just didn't know any better.
Sure.
And
Well,
you can,
I've heard a lot of people talk about like healing experiences, right? And then all of a sudden realizing like this horrible relationship they had with their parents, and all of this kind of disdain and anger towards their parents. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, my parents were 19 when they had me, and they did the best that they could. You know what I mean? And this realization
right.
of that, you
You
know,
have these expectations
yeah,
of other people, but they're just doing they're not doing it intentionally to harm
absolutely,
you.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
doing the best that they can. And that's when ancestral trauma and healing the ancestral trauma and stopping it from affecting future generations comes in. And and somebody's got to stop it. So it takes a really strong individual who is
hmm
able to do that
hmm
and then help people in the future, their kids
right.
and other
Yeah.
family members.
I was watching something today that was just talking about how a lot of the souls that are on the planet right now are light workers because of that, you know, very thing. I do want to acknowledge, I have Marilyn Pisano out in the audience. People who don't understand everything is love coming from a lower vibration, perhaps with a negative mind thought. It's our job as light workers to keep our vibration higher and send those light, peace, and understanding, which I all the time I say that, right? It's like, instead of looking at somebody with judgment and being like, oh my God, look at that person, be like, oh my God, that poor soul, right? Like, kind of
Right.
like, you know, just like give it love, not judgment. And then she continues, says, without contrast, how could we know the things we need to change to be better humans and come back to love? uh we are alive, and we live and come from love, I guess, is what she's trying to say.
One
uh
thing I would like to say, because I think that so many light workers are so very generous with their energy that it is important to also remember to protect your energy. That's part of love too, for thyself,
Absolutely.
is
Absolutely.
to understand that yes, you can love somebody, but you also can love them from afar if they're still harming you. You have to set boundaries. Boundaries are very important.
Right.
And that is part of love as well.
Sure. And I think, and for me, this manifests, or this kind of comes in my life, like dealing with people who may suddenly like, oh, I'm doing fine with this person. And then suddenly they do something and they treat me a certain way. And instead of just being like, feeling like, oh my God, I have to tell this person how they treated me, or I have to do something about it, just being like, okay, I understand that person's energy now, and I'm going to behave differently. I'm not going to allow myself in a position where I'm depending on that person, or, you
Right.
know, that misunderstanding that they have, or the lack of love that they have, affects me, because I can't change that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah,
Exactly.
that's great.
And to understand that it doesn't have to be so personally taken,
Right.
because it's you, you are in control. Like you said, you're in control of how you respond to other people,
That's right.
and their words don't have to affect
Right.
you.
Right. And Marilyn says, yes, too many energy vampires,
Oh, I
which
know.
is so true. But I think what's great about that statement, or at least for me, that makes me kind of happy, not like, oh my God, yeah, I can relate, I get it, I totally know what you're talking about, but the ability to recognize that now, and be able to set those boundaries and be like, okay, that person is an energy vampire, I'm going to stand
Yes.
over here, let them stand over
Yes.
there, you know. And it's really kind of as simple like as that, as far as, like I was saying earlier, choices that we make, you know, on how to,
Yes.
like, and then what I was saying about the ego too, like not being like, I'm going to set that person straight, or I have to tell this person, right? Just being like, I get, I can now, I can now orchestrate the energetic exchange that happens because I understand it much better. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
and sometimes like if this person is in your life consistently, then you might have to say something to
Sure,
that person.
sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
for the most part, you don't necessarily have to unless they're crossing your lines, and then you have to be able to communicate and protect your boundaries.
And I think that's part of, but I think that's, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. For me, something that I realized in the bunch of years is different people coming across my path that I needed to like work with, coworkers, and
Yes.
just being able to, and I use this term and I understood this concept, navigate that relationship. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, okay, I've got to navigate this. This is the situation I'm in, and now I've got to navigate it. So instead of like just being like, shit, I got to go to work today and deal with that person, just be like, okay, what am I going to bring to the table today? How am I going to do this? You know what I mean? And forgive, you know what I mean, while maintaining the boundaries that you feel like you need, you know, so that you're, like you said, protecting yourself.
Yeah, and I like Eckhart, I think that's how you say his name, Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
who that is. Of course you
Eckhart
probably do.
Tolle, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um he talks about understanding that they're not enlightened. And when you start to understand that when certain people like coworkers
Hmm.
that you have to interact with,
Hmm.
that they just don't know any better. I mean, it's not like you can go to that person and say, "Oh, well, you're just not enlightened." You can't say
Right,
that.
right. But that helps
But
you transmute it, the energy you're feeling, into love.
yes.
It becomes
Yes.
a loving energy. You're like, okay, you
Exactly.
know, I'm more compassionate now. I feel bad, you know, for you that
Right.
you've got to go through life like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And again,
Exactly.
it's not standing in judgment, right? It's just kind of being like, okay, I know how I go through life and how it feels for me. That energy exchange we just had doesn't feel like that. So, you know, I'll let you figure it out. You know what I mean? I also want to acknowledge one of my great listeners here, Angelo, who is he's on a very interesting journey. He's definitely connected to energy. He definitely can understand and read energy, but he's like, he didn't grow up around spirituality, and it's just kind of really new to him. And
Mm.
occasionally he'll come on and he'll kind of read my guest, right? So he's made a couple of comments here that I think are related to that. He says, who loves hats? He says, she's so girly, sunglasses and flowers. So is any of
Are
that?
these images he's seeing with me?
I think I'm that's what I'm interpreting, that he's like reading you. He's like,
I get it.
what is this energy that I'm feeling? This is what I'm feeling.
I get it.
Does
I
any of
am
that
girly.
resonate? You are girly.
I am girly. I'm a
Okay.
girly girl.
So there you
Yes.
go, Angela. I'm just trying to validate for him, because I do believe that he is connected. He definitely has some sort of gift that he's just kind of trying to figure out, you know,
And
and
that's what happens to me too, by the way. When I'm interacting, I had something the other day where I was interacting with somebody in one of my past life regressions. I'm like, your guides are showing me pepper. I have no idea why I'm seeing pepper. And it's like, I keep pepper in my car. That's how much I love pepper. It was just some random image that had to do
validation.
with their energy signature. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
he's picking up on that. So I just want to validate that for him too. That sometimes that's what we get. We get flashes
Mhm,
of different symbols or images, sometimes metaphorically.
mhm.
I'm
Well,
wondering if actually, they're showing me with Angelo. Angelo, do you see things? Sorry, I am a psychic medium, so I can't help read your energy too.
yeah.
So, do you see things on a chalkboard? They're showing me a chalkboard
Oh,
specifically.
so how
Do
do
you
the
see
images
things
show up?
written?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, I was going to actually ask you that, right? So I'm changing it, right? But I have spoken before about that. I think that I have this. I think that I have a psychic fetish, right?
Okay.
In that, I don't ever feel like, oh my God, I want to go see a psychic medium. I have questions that I need answered. I don't ever feel that way. But I work with a lot of psychic mediums. I like I was telling you, I'm in production. So Christopher Allen, one of my good friends, I produced a couple of shows for him, and so I'm around it, and I love being around it. I can feel the energy that's happening. I feel the exchange. It's usually, you know, brings me to tears in
Yeah.
just a joyous way. The
Yeah.
healing, it's healing. I'm like getting the extraneous healing that's happening. Um, but oh my God, what was I going to say? I just lost my thought.
You were talking about, well, we were talking about Angelo, and then that exchange of how we receive the messages, like on the
Oh
chalkboard.
yeah, yeah. So I was, and then I was talking about being a psychic. So I'm changing it to a psychic aficionado. Okay, I'm a gourmet. I have
Oh, I like
a
that.
gourmet taste for psychics. So I'm also curious for you for how you get your messages. Do you see
Mm,
symbols? Do you see pictures? I know on your website it said you experience a few of the clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience.
yeah, all of
Uh,
them at some point or another.
mm,
And we
oh,
all can develop them, but it's like going to the Olympics. Like everybody at the Olympics is an athlete, but they're good at certain individual
mhm,
things. And
mhm,
so
mhm,
all mediums are different.
mhm, mhm.
Psychics or mediums are different.
Yeah.
Um, it depends on the spirit as well as their guides interacting with mine as to how I get
Okay.
messages. Because so I'm probably so many of your listeners are, I'm an empath,
Mhm,
and I am empathic to the degree that I am clairsentient. I can literally feel someone's body.
mhm.
I know that sounds freaky, but I can literally feel. I'm also a medical intuitive. I can
Okay.
feel. Um, Sometimes this is gonna. Maybe I should be careful as to what I say on this thing,
Well,
but I
just
can.
know it's not freaky in this community. It's anything goes. Everything goes. Everything goes.
I I I I can. Okay, so sometimes spirit will literally. Um, I will feel like I don't know if they're doing it or if I'm doing it. I don't really understand how it works, but
Mhm,
I can
mhm,
feel sometimes like them.
mhm,
Okay. So,
mhm,
like, I had a reading where I had a spirit come through who was a big guy, like 7 feet
mhm,
tall,
mhm, mhm.
big, like, again, I'm petite. Okay.
Right.
Big guy. So it's interesting sometimes because not only do my mannerisms change, and I have clients from around the world, so sometimes how I speak might change,
Mhm,
especially if I'm interacting with a male spirit, my
mhm.
posture will change and I'll start,
Oh, interesting.
or like I'll be like, I
Like
don't
a
make this
trans
movement,
channel.
is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
yours? Yeah.
yeah,
So but it was interesting because I was feeling like I was this 7 foot tall guy who felt too big and would hunch himself over to kind of make himself feel smaller.
yeah.
And when I was like, what your hands feel like, right? Like, I'm trying to explain to you what it's like.
Sure.
What your hands feel like. They've been your hands for decades, right? Like,
Mhm.
your hands.
Right.
When I felt my hands suddenly as he was taking over my energy, I felt like I had these like sausage fingers, like these big
Mm.
giant hands
Right,
that
right, right. You're
had
feeling your physicality was feeling different.
my entire physicality feels
Wow.
different.
Wow.
And that happens a lot. Like spirit, there's a video of me out there someplace where one spirit came in and suddenly I just started ticking in the in the reading, and
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, okay, this is not me. I don't know understand what's happening. Can you please explain to me? Did your husband
Wow.
do this?
Right,
And
right.
she's like, yes. And I said,
Wow.
okay, so it feels to me like I'm getting like this pin feeling and then I need to move. And she's like, yeah, he had a lot of nerve damage in his shoulders and he had a lot of
Wow.
surgeries and nerve damage. And I'm like, okay, thank you for, and then of course the spirit then will release me, which
Mhm.
is always pleasant because when sometimes
It's for
I don't,
validation.
yeah, but I
Mm,
don't always love feeling it because I can't, I don't know who's going to sit in front of me.
mhm,
Okay. Even though I'm
mhm,
psychic, I don't know
mhm.
at any given point, somebody can sit in front of me and I don't know
What the
why they're
energy
sitting
might,
in front of
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
I had a woman come in and and sometimes I invite people to bring a photograph because if spirit doesn't step forward on their own, I can channel their energy by looking at a picture or maybe holding an object that
Wow.
belonged to them and feeling their energy signature, similar to how Angela was feeling my energy.
Mhm,
I can
mhm,
do that with an object. And she had a picture, and when I looked at it, it was a missing persons
mm,
flyer.
Mm,
But when I saw it, I immediately started to
mm,
feel terrible things
mhm, mhm,
personally to my body.
mhm,
Like I felt being hit across
mm.
my face. It's
Oh
not
my
very
God.
pleasant.
Mm.
I felt sometimes I've felt being on fire. That's awful.
Wow. Wow.
Um, with a car accident.
Oh my
But this
goodness.
particular person was buried,
Mm.
and I could feel and
Oh my
smell
God.
the earth
Wow.
falling onto my skin.
Mm,
And I don't know who's sitting in front of me. I
mm,
don't know, because I was seeing, so the client described you have to be so careful because
mhm,
you could be in danger too.
mm,
um I said, how do you know this person? Why are you looking for her? Maybe she didn't want to be found. I
mm,
don't know.
mhm, mhm,
So she was explaining that this was her brother's ex. I don't know if I'm feeling that she was murdered. I'm certainly not going to start telling anybody the
oh
details
my
about
goodness.
that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it gets very intense doing this work sometimes, and it's
That
not
is
always
very intense.
pleasant. I
That
mean,
is very
I
intense.
had another client come and sit in front of me, and her friend was found naked in the washing machine.
Oh my goodness.
These are things that I don't really want to see.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
laughing, but it's
Or
awful.
even interact with. Right, right.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't want that. So there
Right.
are things that, but the reason why I do this work is to help people find themselves
Sure.
and to connect with themselves spiritually and to find their path forward, or to connect families, to connect. One of the most beautiful things is when, like, you have a couple who really love each other
Hmm,
and
hmm,
they had a happy, beautiful marriage,
hmm.
and they're talking lovey things back and forth to each other. It's so
Oh,
sweet.
that's
Oh my
cool.
God. It does
That's,
transcend.
wow.
It is so beautiful. Or
That's
like
very cool.
when a parent connects with their child who's passed, and sometimes it's funny because the the spirits will mess with the people who are living with
Yeah.
like flickering lights. I had this one spirit who was constantly moving things on the wall and like making the pictures go sideways. And for other
Right.
people, it might be scary, but
Right.
the spirit was getting a kick out of it. They
Right.
they were just laughing. It was funny. And then the lights start flickering during the
That's funny.
reading.
Oh my goodness. That's
You
interesting.
know,
You
it's
know,
funny.
you inspired an interesting question. So has there ever been like, how do I phrase this? I guess the question is healing always the purpose, right? So this woman who came to you, it was there like some, I don't want to say nefarious necessarily, but like what was the outcome? Was there healing that happened from that, or was it like just the spirit was, I mean, what do you think? What can you tell
So
me?
which one are you talking about? The one who was murdered and buried?
Either one of those cases, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess in one case the woman was looking for an answer, right? But
right.
was she looking for like, did my brother murder this woman, or
So what I gathered from doing the reading itself was that she had parted with the brother and had a new partner, and this new partner was abusing her physically, which I
Mhm,
was
mhm,
feeling,
mhm.
and he was the one that carried this out, and it was in another country. So I'm observing all of this from New York
Wow,
when this is happening in some Central American country.
right.
Um,
Well, wait a
and
second. So I'm
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. So I'm
you're
just
good.
now the story is intriguing, right? Um,
Yeah.
so 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 the woman was coming to you because the brother's ex was murdered,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she wanted to.
And she had a child. They're like, well, where's your mom? Where's mommy? Her nephew was
Okay, but I guess okay. So but they knew that she was murdered, or no? She just was missing.
no,
Oh, she
she
was
was
missing.
missing.
She.
And
Oh,
they're
right.
like,
You said
why
it was
would
a missing.
she leave her
Gotcha, gotcha.
child? Why would she leave her
Right, right, right.
child? And I can give a little bit more of the story, but I don't want to, as long as I don't typically talk about my clients
yeah. I'm
and
sorry to
reveal
put you in
personal
that situation.
information. It's
Yeah, yeah.
okay. But I just want people to understand, like, I feel comfortable doing this because I'm not giving certain information.
Right, right, right.
Um, but what I saw was she was abused, and I don't always remember things, by the way, from readings.
Mhm.
Um, but certain things will stay with me. But most of the time I forget because the information coming through is not for me or from
Right,
me.
right, right,
It
right.
just comes through me. It's like reading on a blackboard or a sign, and you're not really
Mhm.
paying attention to the words. You're
Right,
just kind of
right.
reading it out loud. That's
Sure,
kind of
sure,
what most of my readings are like.
sure.
Not for obviously the other person, but for me.
Right, right.
But this particular, it did stay with me. So she was being abused, and I saw her packing bags and leaving during the night
Mhm,
to escape.
mhm,
And she was staying in an apartment, and I could have described the apartment because I was seeing it in very vivid detail, but
mhm,
that it was really none of her business what was
mhm.
happening,
Right, right,
because
right.
I don't know, so I'm not going to start giving you location of somebody who I don't know if it's
Right,
safe for them,
right,
because
right.
it's really important to be ethical. Um,
Yeah.
and then I saw, so this is unfolding, right? So I'm debating, what do I say to the person?
Right.
So it's unfolding for me. And then I see this man come and break into the apartment and take her and
Mhm,
drag her and knocked her out. And it was during the night, and
mhm,
I felt her, and this is so awful because I feel like it was me. That it's
mhm,
so
mhm.
vivid that I felt like it was me in this
That's
situation. That's
crazy.
how
Yeah,
awful it
that's
is.
pretty crazy, yeah.
So it stays
Mhm.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but she was laying in the back of the car, like in the bed, the truck of the bed of the truck,
Right.
and then was thrown into a hole,
Mm,
and I could feel that
mhm,
wet, the smell of like a
mhm,
rich
mhm.
brown dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Sure.
smell?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
I could
earthy, yeah, yeah.
smell it. And
Wow.
so that's a different Claire. I forgot the name of it, but that's one
Mhm,
Claire.
mhm,
And then I could feel it, that wet, cold heaviness onto of the pieces of the dirt falling onto me.
mhm, mhm.
And then I was like, okay, I can't do this. I broke the
Right,
connection because I
right.
knew this was so. What do you say to somebody that's sitting in front of you that doesn't know that this person is no longer living
Mhm.
and has a child?
Mm.
Okay. And the spirit at this point was not happy that I wanted to break the connection, because spirit
Mhm,
is like,
mhm. I gotta get this message through, yeah.
I want to talk. I want to get this
Yeah, I can
through. I
imagine,
want
right,
you to
yeah,
talk to my son. I
right.
miss, like, I need, like, the spirit was very upset that
No.
she had been taken away way too soon, that her
Mhm,
son needed her,
mhm, mhm.
and was inconsolable. So you're asking me, what do I do?
Yeah.
Was there healing? So after I understood that it wasn't the brother, I felt comfortable enough to say, look, I am seeing an abusive relationship. I am seeing this, and I am feeling her in spirit on the other side, because she
Mm,
doesn't need to
mm,
know all of the
mhm, mhm,
terrible
mhm,
things.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I mean,
Right, that's
it's not that I'm trying to keep
gentle-ish.
things, but,
Right, right,
you
right, right.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
s-
no, I can't imagine having to deliver any news, like, anything
it's,
at that. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
and it's really important that the person that you go to is not just dumping things that are difficult to handle on you.
Mhm, mhm,
I understand that people want the details, okay?
right,
And I can understand that side of it. But on the other side of that,
mhm,
you have to understand, is that person across from you, that's who you're obligated to.
right,
Are they able to handle that? Like, I had a client call me, and I know I'm diverting to another story, but I had a client call me who said, I would like to find out about a reading, but I'm very afraid. And I said, okay, let's talk about it.
okay,
She said, you know what? I can't. You know what? I made a mistake calling you. I just can't do this. I have to go.
mhm,
I went to another psychic. She told me that I was going to die in my uncle's house, and he's at end of life right now, and I cannot go to his house. I refuse because I'm going to die.
wow,
Why did somebody say that to her?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it
Does
was
that
kind of
serve her?
ethical practice as a psychic, like you don't say that to somebody
No,
that
you do
they're
not say
gonna die,
that. There's
like,
no purpose of
yeah, I never
telling
heard of
anybody
any,
that they're going to die. It is
yeah.
never going to help somebody
Sure.
that they're going to die. Okay. Now
Yeah.
I've seen car accidents where I've said something and then it's come
Mhm.
true, where I
Right.
always get text messages days later, oh,
Oh
that
my
thing
god.
happened.
Oh my goodness.
But it never is going to be beneficial to tell anybody that they're going to pass away. And
Right.
I don't want to see it. And I tell my guides, I don't want to see it, so they don't
Right.
share that with me because
Right.
I
Right.
don't
Right.
want to know. I
Sure.
don't want to know. But going back to this other situation, I um, I asked for a moment. I asked the client, because they're paying for the time. I
Hmm.
asked for a moment to help cross this spirit over.
Hmm. Hmm.
I did my best, but I can't influence spirit. We each
Hmm.
have our own free will. This spirit
Hmm.
wanted to be around for her son and was not going anywhere.
Right.
She wanted to be around for her son. So I do my best to provide healing. And most situations, I don't want to make it sound like I'm dealing with, that's the exception to the rule. Most of them are families that are so very grateful to hear from each other and to get
Sure.
that closure.
Sure.
And it is healing, and it is something that maybe they've waited decades to do. Like you say, you don't want to go to the psychic. There are so many people who are resistant and afraid
Hmm.
to go to a psychic medium. And I was raised to be closed for most of my life. Though I was interacting with spirit as a kid, I
Hmm.
was raised Catholic,
Hmm.
and mm, it was not okay to connect with the energy or to believe in even astrology. It's like, oh,
Right.
come on. I was raised in an Italian household. Yeah,
Right. Right.
you know. So um I was closed for most of my life. It wasn't until later where I could no longer afford not to be open,
Right.
because it was going to be a detriment to my health, that
Sure.
I had to fulfill my life's mission and do this
Right.
work.
Right. We didn't even get to talk about that, and we're way over the hour that
Oh my
I
gosh.
usually get. Yeah,
I
no,
talk a
no,
lot.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We had a lot to talk about. You're amazing to talk to. This is
Thank
I
you.
hope that you're enjoying the conversation. I know I am.
Yeah, I love deep
Th-
conversation.
yeah, this is what I love. Um, but maybe I'll have to bring you back,
Yeah, I
and
would love to.
we'll have to continue this more about who you are and all of that stuff. I do want to kind of take care of a little business, because one of the reasons I was trying to think of this and how to say it at the beginning about how we connected, but you reminded me, it was the Soul Care Conference. Was really, that's, I think, the first that
Yes.
we've even heard of each other. Angelo says, "Great show, guys." Thank you, Angelo. By the way, Angelo, when before he said no pictures as far as the chalkboard goes, but
Mm.
he did say vineyards for you. He saw vineyards for you. So I
Hmm.
don't know if you're into vineyards. Marilyn said you feel the high vibration. It's loving and it's peaceful. And she said trans mediumship is a beautiful gift. This is when you were talking about kind of some of the stuff that you do. Um,
It is a
and
gift.
then and then I guess when you were talking about this, Tim said, what would you do in the case where a client asks you to tell them when or how they're going to die?
I would tell them it's not going to benefit them in any way. It's going
Right.
to stop them from living. And that's the point of them being here. They have to
Right.
live.
Right. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's a great answer. Great episode. Much love. Thank you, Tim. Much appreciated. So before I do let you go today, again, I definitely want to have you back. This is awesome. I love
Yeah.
what you do. I love the way you tell your stories. It definitely, there's certainly a super authentic energy here, which I love. Also, I did want to mention, when you were telling the story about this woman, like you said, most of the audience are probably empaths. I mean, I was feeling it. That was, you were definitely just kind of I don't want to say bringing the energy back. You weren't bringing it back, but you were tapping into the energy of whatever that
Yes.
situation was, and expressing it. And I definitely felt it for sure.
Yeah, there is residual energy that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
linger as well. Yeah.
it's really interesting. But let's just talk quickly about the Soul Conference, which you are a part of,
Yes, very excited.
and that is happening on April 27th here on Long Island. Let me close this so we got a better view of it, where we have some great speakers. Leah, you are speaking that day. What are you going to be speaking about? Obviously psychic mediumship, but anything specific that you're bringing to the conversation?
Yes, I'm going to be speaking about how to make lemonade from lemons. When
Mm,
life makes it really difficult to um, stay in the constraints, and when you are in recurring patterns and loops, how
mhm,
it is not meant to perpetuate itself, but it is meant to catapult you into change to follow your actual
mhm.
divinely intended path,
I love that.
and how to do that.
I love that. Let me pop this up. I should have popped this up earlier. If you enjoyed the conversation and you resonated with Leah, uh, Leah is Leah Claire medium.com. That's how you could get in touch with her.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Soul Care conference. And
Same
uh,
here.
it's interesting too what you just said, right? Because I had an episode with this gentleman Seth Przansky, and he said he was talking about the universe, and he said that the universe conspires to put you in situations that allow you to choose the path to become your highest self, right? And
Over and over and
over
over
and over and
again
over.
until you pay attention and do it.
And I loved
Yes.
that. I loved that idea and that thought, and I subscribe to that. But when he said the word conspires, I was like, oh, that's conspiracy theory. I'm like, there's this negative connotation to that
It's
word,
with love.
and I came up with the word inspiracy.
Oh, I like
As
that.
in spirit, the inspiracy theory is that the universe conspires to put you in a situation to become your best self, and that's the inspiracy theory. So we came up with that new word, and
I love that.
that's the kind of thing that happens here on the show,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
very
cool.
cool.
So
It's all
again,
meant to bring you to where you're supposed to be for happiness. That's where it really
absolutely,
is. It's what it's
absolutely.
for.
Which is why I think the audience keeps coming back. I think they know one day they're going to be watching an episode and something's going to happen. They're going to be like, "Oh my god, everything just changed around me." That's the 5D, right?
Amazing.
Is
Yes.
the perception and the way you're able to see things. Before I put you in the green room and sign off the show, do you have any words of love, advice, any salutations? I don't know, just to say goodbye.
Way to put me on the spot. I think that everything that even seems really hard has the purpose of bringing you to a better place.
Mhm,
And you're not meant to stay in a place that is hard. You're not meant to stay in a place that you're not respected. You're not meant to stay in a place that you are in a cycle of being around people who do not see you, honor you, or circumstances that do not see
mhm,
you, honor you, or allow you to be your true authentic self. And
mhm,
it is not until you are your true authentic self that you will be able to find happiness. And it takes bravery. You've got to be brave and
mhm.
help yourself to get to that point. And it all is about love. It truly is.
It truly is. I love it. I love your advice. And I'm just going to put on top of that to whoever's receiving that and hearing that, I'm going to say, you can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it, for
Yes.
sure. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Like I said, we'll definitely have you back. I'm going to put you in the green room, but don't go anywhere because I want to talk to you after I say goodbye to the audience.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for being here. Bye. Oh wow. All right, guys. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know if you feel it, but every time I do this, it's healing. You know what I mean? It's like I get excited about the guest that I'm having a conversation with. I love holding space. I love that, which is why I have that other show. And I love that you guys are here interacting and receiving and Angelo growing his perceptions and exploring them. You know, even the fact that you're brave enough to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Does it mean anything? You know, I think that's a good sign that you're on the right path. So on Tuesday, coming up on Holding Space, now I've got to do this kind of calendar thing. I've got actually another speaker from the Soul Care Conference, Missy Kalolekas, is going to be with us, and she does Reiki and sound healing and also works with energy. So I'm excited to talk to her. And then on Thursday next week on the live stream of Consciousness, I've got a woman named Eva Gypsy Love from a different spiritual group I'm connected with, and I don't know her. So those are also some of my favorite episodes where I get to actually meet someone, experience them and who they're about. And we have this awesome energy exchange. So thank you guys, as always, for being here. I will see you guys next week or on Tuesday, whatever you decide, or maybe we'll just run into each other somewhere on the street. Peace.
This is the theme song for the live stream of consciousness. You gotta ask yourself whether reality is a dream or you are dream reality. We're all a part of the answer to the meaning of it all. Come in and join us.